Have you thought about your STD yet? And no, I'm not talking about sexually transmitted disease. I'm talking about your save the date. Yes, I know, the abbreviation is bad. Today, we're talking all about save the dates or STDs. Why you need one, when you should send it out, what you need to include on it, and what your options are. Hi there, I'm Jamie Chang, your destination wedding planning guru and designer of joy at Mango Muse Events, the creator of Passport to Joy, the step-by-step online wedding planning course for couples, and the founder of Let's I Do This, intimate and micro weddings in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I share real and honest and useful wedding planning tips, tricks, and advice you can use to help make planning your wedding easier and more enjoyable so that you can create a wedding you love. Because let's face it, wedding planning can be hard and downright stressful, and nobody wants that. Nobody. So we're bringing the joy back to wedding planning. Are you ready? All right, so let's do this. Now, today we are talking all about STDs. And once again, this is not sexually transmitted diseases. These are save the dates. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, what the heck is a save the date? Here is what it is in the most simplest terms. It is simply a notification to your guests of your upcoming wedding date. Now, typically, this is something that would be sent in the mail that, indicates to your guests what your wedding date is, and it looks something kind of like this-ish. Now, there are all kinds of different designs, of course, but this is just an example. It doesn't have to be this way, of course, and we will be talking about this in a little bit as well. But you send something to your guests that tells them what your wedding date is. Now, they're called save the dates because, the whole purpose of why they exist and why you'd send it is to allow your guests to save the date. Notifying them of your wedding date means they can put it in their calendar, they can save that date, and start planning if they need to. Now, save the dates are not required. They are, though, really helpful for all weddings. But if you're planning a destination wedding or, a wedding where there are a lot of out-of-town guests, save the dates are really necessary and just super duper important. Now, you might be thinking, okay, why? Because it allows your guests time to plan. And in this case, with destination weddings or people who are coming from out of town, it allows them time to plan for travel. And so, we all know that can take a little while. It can take some time. It's also something you don't want to do last minute. So giving them a head start and letting them know early that your wedding, is happening is just really helpful for them. Now, as I said, save the dates are really helpful for all weddings. But, with COVID and all the many postponements and changes, it's even just more important. Save the dates are just more important now. And it's because your guests need to know about that new date when you have it, right? They've been told, that your wedding is postponed or it's put on hold, and now they need to know. So once again, they can plan. These are also now being called change the dates, a little spin on save the date for our lovely COVID times. Okay, so now you know why you have a save the date, why you would send a save the date. Let's talk about when you should send it. Now, typically the earlier the better, once again, for planning purposes, but there are definitely some parameters around this. So, you don't want to send it out too early. There is such a thing as too early. So somewhere between, let's say, about a year to 9 months before your wedding is good for most couples, most weddings. And this obviously only makes sense if you're planning for a year or more out. Now, if your planning time frame is shorter than that, then you want to send it out as soon as you have a date. Because once again, you want to give your guests time to plan. But if you have, let's say, a really, really short time frame, this is when things can get a little tricky because you do want some time between your save the date and your invite. So between when you send your save the date and when you send your invite. So if it'll only end up being, say, like a few weeks in between them, it's just not worth it to send the save the date. Just send your invite earlier. It'll also help you save on some costs there too. Now, if you're sending a change the date, you can send that out as soon as you have your new date. But if your new date is kind of still tentative, or maybe you're waiting on something, or it's like a soft hold date and not a real date yet, because maybe you're in a situation where there are some things still up in the air, you don't want to send it out until it is confirmed. And mainly just because you don't want to have to send multiple notifications to your guests. It'll just confuse them. So send it once it's confirmed, but just make sure, it's officially confirmed before you do. So you know now why you'd send a save the date and when you'd send it. Now let's talk about what goes on your save the date. Now, luckily, this is very simple and straightforward. It's really hard to mess this up. You really need 4 things: your names, and both of your names, obviously, here. You need your wedding date, of course, because it is a save the date. You need your location. And by location, I mean the area, not the venue. So for example, that could be something like San Francisco, California, or it could be something like Honolulu, Hawaii, where you don't want to actually put, like, for example, the hotel or the venue or the place necessarily. That comes in your invite. You're really just giving them the location, okay? And then the 4th thing you want to put on there is your wedding website. Now you might be thinking, ooh, wedding website. This is not a required item, just like a save the date is not absolutely required, but it's also really helpful. Most weddings have at least some information that your guests need to know. And your website is really just a handy place to sort of put all that and to share even more info to help them. And it's just more than you can really share on paper usually. And so you can go into great detail, you can share links, you can put maps, there's all kinds of things you can do with a wedding website. And so it's just really handy for your guests, once again, to give them more information. It's also a really good way to do electronic RSVPs, which leads me to the last thing about save the dates, which is, what are your options? All right, so for most people, and this is the most typical thing you will see, is save the dates usually come, in some form of a card, stationery, in other words, that's sent to guests in the mail. But once again, it doesn't have to be. It could be some other, physical object that isn't stationary, but still gets sent in the mail. And it really could be kind of anything, really. You can go nuts with this. And while this tends to be typically more expensive, it's also more unique. And you can really just customize it to you, your wedding, the things you love, what you're having planned. It could be literally, it could be anything from food to, a record to a magnet. I mean, really, the sky's the limit here. So you can have a lot of fun with this. But just know that it is also typically more expensive. Now, the other option you have, besides stationery, besides another physical item, is you can go electronic with your save the dates. Now, besides being green, electronic save the dates are really helpful in a lot of ways. For one, they're way more cost effective because it's electronic. It's also obviously green, as we said before, but it's also especially helpful if you need to get the word out quickly. Now, this could be because you have a short planning time frame. This could be because, it's COVID and it just makes more sense because you're having multiple postponements. Whatever the reason, it's definitely an option worth considering. And if you're worried about the aesthetics, there are really nice ones out there now that are, still really cool and fun. And it's just a really quick and easy way to get word out to your guests that's still really nice. Okay? And that's save the dates. All you need to know. So why you'd get them, when you'd send them out, what needs to be on them, and what your options are. Alrighty? Now you can go forth and figure out what you're doing for your save the date. And I'm going to leave you with a question here. And really it's just, are you planning on sending a save the date? I keep doing that. Are you planning on sending a save the date? Let me know in a comment below. And if you enjoyed today's video, please like it, give us some thumbs up. You can check out our other wedding planning videos for even more tips and hit subscribe so you can get access to all the new ones. And if you're looking for help through the entire wedding planning process, including having access to a wedding visor, check out Passport to Joy. You can find all the links below because you deserve to enjoy your engagement no matter what your budget is. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.